when I first started being an entrepreneur, I didn't want to be. My husband here is from a big family that does entrepreneurs, and he kept telling me it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
What could go wrong?
Right. So I went to Indian Hills for business and accounting, and it's really helped me a great deal, learn a lot of skills. And watching the business take form has been really incredible. I never thought I would take on such big projects in my life. And believe me, I wanted to cry on some of them. But he's helped me a lot through all of it.
How many employees do you have?
Just 2 employees right now. Yep, but primarily it was me, my husband, and my oldest daughter that took on cobblestone. Our next venture is the Frontier Foods and Freight. We want to import Alaska seafood from Southeast Alaska. That's originally where we're from. We noticed that there's not that many Alaska seafood out here, and it's been kind of a chore trying to figure it out. We'd also like to export meat and produce to Alaska because the meat and produce up there is horrible. I was born and raised in Juneau, Alaska, and the produce is a joke. And then I would like to eventually open a cold food storage here to help local businesses, meat lockers, farmers. I'm hoping to be able to rent out that space for people so they can expand their business. What kind of experience do we have? Akira has worked at Lineage Logistics for 2.5 years. He's worked on the forklift, hydraulic lifts, cataloging product, which is like scanning product into the system. I worked at Merit. If you're not familiar with Merit, it's a subcontractor with JBS. So we take all the meat and package it and ship it off for them. I was an admin there, so I was working with the scheduling. I'll let him tell you a little more about what he learned at Lineage.
Okay. Well, I started Lineage as a box thrower, just loading rail cars and semi-truck trailers full of pork. Smell was awful. Not exactly my favorite job, but one thing I did notice there is the seafood industry and the pork and food industry, agriculture industry, they kind of go hand in hand when it comes to food storage. And I saw a lot of things that I could have innovated and made things a little better. One thing I noticed there was everyone in the warehouses were pretty transparent. Everyone knew what was going on the floor. And so they were really open to change. And I think that will be an important part of opening food storage, is having everyone being on the same page. I noticed, well, when I was there, I learned how to use forklifts, dollies. I learned how to scan in food and catalog it, load trucks, unload trucks, load trains. And I just felt like, this is probably something I could do with seafood. That is the one thing that we don't have here too much of. Usually it's fresh frozen or frozen and farmed, and from supermarkets and based from all over the world. We usually have almost every fish from everywhere but the Pacific is what I've been noticing. And so I have a couple facts. So yeah, spare me a little bit. I'm kind of a little nervous on this, but all right. Alaska dedicated to sustainable seafood. They have more than 50 years. The only state with a constitution that mandates that all seafood be managed under the sustainable yield principle. We can kind of go on that too. What that means is that they're replenishing what they're taking out. And where we're from, we have a couple facilities, nursery facilities for fish. One of the ones that we know was Diepack. We had a little beach there, and we would go and fish whenever the fish were coming out down the river. We would usually fish as kids and just catch them right there off the rocks. But what they do is they, instead of farming the fish, they replenish the rivers with more fish. A nursery there and a couple nurseries throughout the state. And well, that's all I have to say on that one. Okay, next card. The seafood industry, Alaska's largest private sector employer. And they provide 60% of all wild seafood, just the Alaska seafood industry. And 90 to 95% of wild salmon harvested in the USA. So as you can tell, there's a lot of fish that could be brought out there or brought out here. But for some reason, and this is what I can't figure out, is why most of the fish is coming from other places. And it seems like a lot of it is coming from the Atlantic or the Gulf. And I feel that there's a need that we should know more Pacific fish, because there is a difference. There really is a difference. One thing I can point out is the Atlantic is 16 degrees warmer than the Pacific. Also, it's saltier. And recently I had a chance to try some, I guess it would be farmed fish from the Atlantic. And it seemed kind of soft and soapy. It had like a soapy, soft texture to it. And that's just not what I'm used to. I don't know if you guys have ever tried Pacific salmon, but or farmed or wild Pacific salmon, but it doesn't have the same texture. And I feel like there's a shortage, so maybe we can get that out here. But we do have a couple ideas. We have a couple ideas, like maybe even starting off with a box truck. Yeah, okay. Well, it looks like I'm coming up to the end of my. All right. So I think I'll switch back to her. But thanks for your patience, guys.
As you mentioned, there's multiple different types of Alaska fish. So on the screen here, I have different types. So we have king salmon, which is what a lot of people know. There's sockeye, there's chum, there's pink salmon. They all have their own certain seasons on when they run. So on the screen here, it says what month and what type of fish there is. And the king salmon is going to be the first one that's running. And then we have sockeye, and we have dog salmon, pink salmon, silver salmon, and halibut. Halibut will always be the most expensive because it's on the very bottom of the ocean. This one also explains the various different types. The sockeye, it says what color they are, the texture. It kind of helps give you a little more of an idea on what they are. Okay, so on the top left is going to be the Taku Smokeries. So that's a store, a restaurant, and a food processor. So this is right in Juneau, Alaska, from where we're from. The bottom right below it is how they smoke the salmon fillets. The one up next to it is the fish processing. So you'll see how big they are compared to a lot of other places.
And that's just right on the dock. They're just sorting the fish right there on the dock after they take it from the boat.
Yeah, and then those bins right there, they just put them in these bins and process them. Another picture of salmon, and that's the halibut.
Big fish.
Yeah, they're really big fish. And then there's fish and chips, the fish and chips in Alaska, and a seafood dish. As you can see, it's a lot different from around here. Like you mentioned in the beginning, we want to start off with a few smaller box trucks, like reefer trucks. That's how we want to start. We would take orders from people and then just bring it directly to the restaurant or the store, whoever is ordering it. I'm working with Alaska Seafood in Juneau, Alaska, so they do like the smoke, and they can jar it. They have dog food treats and jerky. They have various different types that we can order. They've also said that they can fly it here and keep it frozen. So that's what we're hoping to do. We're still in the process. This is still a very new idea, so we're still working through it. Our future plans, I have not put a timeline on these ones because I'm not too sure how fast it's gonna go. But I'd like to obtain a building here in Iowa, Fairfield preferably, and build a freezer. I've talked to a couple places here about buildings. I'd also like to get a space, big enough so I can rent space to local farmers and, expand that way. I would eventually like to export to Alaska, so bringing meat and product to Alaska, hopefully obtain a building. I did find some land up there, but Alaska's very expensive. I'd also like to get a Washington location. It would make more sense because it's gonna ship to Washington off the barges. And I would eventually like to own our own.
That's Washington State.
Yes.
Wow, they see Washington, large Washington, Iowa.
Too many Washingtons.
Too many Washington. So what's the difference between farm fish and Alaska fish? So there's a lot of health benefits for getting wild salmon. So heart healthy, vitamin B12, anti-inflammatory, omega-3, immune supportive, energy producing, muscle producing. When you get farm fish, it's exposed to considered toxic due to the use of chemicals that you have to treat for pests and diseases, which result in high levels of toxic chemicals. Some of those I can't say until they put that's just a little bit, the health benefits. Eventually I'd like to reach out to the fishermen directly and just get the fish from them. We found out a lot of the reason why the prices are so high is because they have to take it to a processor. The processor pays not even $1 per pound to the fishermen.
Angry fishermen.
There's a lot of angry fishermen. A lot of the bigger processors like Trident and stuff pay, I think, 50 cents per pound.
You have a question? Ma'am?
Well, I didn't want to interrupt your
Yeah, go
discussion, but I just had a quick question before I forget. I'm assuming the fish is all arriving frozen. not fresh.
Yes, yes.
So would the farmers have the capability now, or do they need to increase their infrastructure in Alaska in order to make it ready to put on your floor?
A lot of the time they have these big bins on the boat, so they put it into the bin and freeze it already. So it's usually frozen as soon as they catch it.
You process it. What is that?
They freeze it and then they take it to the processor.
Okay, process that.
Does your truck need to be insulated in a special way or?
It needs to be a refrigerated.
Refrigerated?
Yes, it's gonna have to be frozen.
Frozen.
Yes,
Frozen box truck.
yes. I have looked into some prices on it and I'm hoping to at least get one box truck.
How long of a drive is, I mean, when we last spoke, you were gonna just do the driving yourselves.
Mhm.
Drive up, pick it up, come back, and then distribute to those people who pay in advance. Is that the model that you're looking at right now?
I'm looking at that, but Alaska Seafood has told me that they could fly it here. They have the capability of keeping it frozen here quicker. So we might be looking for that. They said it might be cheaper doing it that route too.
Does Alaska Seafood right now deliver frozen Pacific Northwest Alaskan seafood into Des Moines already? Do they?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
I believe you can order it in the mail though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no sort of wholesale fire that you call.
I think the closest
Sure.
one is in Chicago and they do like Alaska Seafood.
I do know that Costco sells frozen sockeye salmon, wild caught frozen sockeye salmon in small packages, but I'm not sure about other products.
Trader Joe's has wild caught Alaskan.
Have you negotiated wholesale pricing then with the fishermen up in Alaska?
Not yet. The only one I have is Alaska Seafood, and they have excellent product, so that's a foot in the door.
So, just from a restaurant perspective,
Mhm.
I have a restaurant in Pleasant Ridge, Casa Brewery, we go through a lot of shrimp and all of this. And just yesterday, as a matter of fact, I got two other, proliferate in Midwest Seafood, trying to get our business back. How have you checked to see the prices, how they compare to the local?
I have not yet. Yes.
I can probably connect you to a lot of these restaurants and university providers in the space and find out, first of all, who's got what.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. So this is going into the summary. So we plan to connect both worlds from Alaska to the Midwest, as Bob said. Middle of nowhere, no more. I stole that from him. And I really like to, it's something that I can really stand behind, is I really want to put the power back into the smaller businesses and give them a chance to expand and grow.
What do you need help with?
I'm still working on that. It's still very new in everything, but, to get started out small as we want, it's probably not gonna be a big bunch to get started.
I just, some of you might remember this, but I'm thinking back over the last 30 years that, at my place of business, I've been approached maybe 10 times, for these are independent, sales people who have a little pickup truck with a freezer unit on the back selling seafood from the Northwest. And so I know there is some direct selling going on, but it's totally cat man.
Right.
They're here 1 year, they're not. I don't see anything 3-4 years, and then the person shows up. So there is some distribution.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot, but I'm
Just
hoping.
pulled up a website or a story in the news about some mobile fish market that just started in the back of his truck back in the 80s. And I guess he's based out of here in the Midwest too, and he goes to the rivers and buys it right off the boats, sells it out of the back of his truck. That might be a good way to do capital or gain capital.
So, as I understand it, you're basically wanting to set up your own food supply chain.
Yeah.
Sort of throw around the whole industrial supply chain. Would you save money doing that, or would it cost more?
And that's why I'm trying to start out small and then gain the capital before I grow. That's what I'm hoping, to have my hands in a lot of things.
Is your cleaning business at this stage throwing off enough surplus that could be kind of a channel for growth?
That's what I'm hoping for, yes. Yes.
So is there something that this group can do to help your base business? So anyone needs or has connections with people who need commercial cleaning services? This is something that they've got going now. It would strike me as a good way to support them.
So the two things I've heard so far is one, sourcing local restaurants, and we've talked about that, but also knowing the competition, because there are those one-offs that come to town every 3 years, but there are some other smaller vendors that the Trader Joe's, the Costco's, and you have been getting, where do you get your seafood right now? Where do you-
Right now, we're getting it from Midwest Seafood, and
So understanding what their pricing is, and then knowing what the pricing is for Sue to pay, and she'll mark it up. But then you can go identify, work with the vendors to see how much they charge, and then you have an idea of what sort of margins you need to get to make that affordable. Because that margin, we're gonna eat into that to fly it down here too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, come talk to me and I'll take, because we went through a lot of salmon, a lot of shrimp, with those 5 times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I would love to sit and tell you what the prices are.
I also remember, Hy-Vee, this is going back years, but, I put on a couple of events and I wanted fresh, Pacific salmon. And I went to our local Hy-Vee and they were able to acquire it and came in on, some schedule, but with enough forward ordering. So I know that they have the capacity. Usually they're selling, it's been frozen and then they thaw it. But in this case, I was able to buy it fresh off the boat and it was from into Des Moines. So I know they have some connections there.
Other questions?
I have one.
Yeah. Gail, and then you. Then our peanut gallery here.
Yeah. I just had a quick question. Do you have any existing facilities, any existing operations, or is this just a whole brand new business idea you're pitching here?
It's a brand new business.
Brand new. Gotcha.
Yes.
Has there been a lot of research with nanoplastics, in Atlantic seafood, or sorry, Alaskan seafood versus the farm raised? I mean, because that's gonna, seems to me it might be less because it's coming out of the rivers.
I'll have to get back to you on that.
Yeah,
There's a lot more in the environment that you're gonna have on a more controlled, you know.
right. I'm thinking that would be a really nice marketing tool,
But it would be good to know.
and it's good to know as
Yeah.
well, if it is the case.
Well, the salmon, don't they have a shorter lifespan than other fish? So they would have less pollutants, I would think.
They're known to, I think they spawn every year. I'm not for sure if there's salmon in the ocean that just stay in the ocean year round and live longer than that. But I know that the majority of the sustainable salmon that they catch and end up on the shelves just last a year. They live a year and then swim upriver and spawn.
One value proposition here that I don't think other companies would be thinking about is the two-way deal with no deadheading. That, stuff comes here, our stuff goes there. Thing that really kind of pushes my buttons on this thing the good way is that this is consistent with our local and distance model that we've done so well with in Fairfield. Either tech companies that are micro multinationals or, the green building supplies and the Rotopias in the world, our world. So that's something that I think would be really an it's an interesting story. And it's also interesting from a substantive standpoint, that building the infrastructure for this also builds out infrastructure that we need for our hyper-local system. So I just see a huge, when they first heard about it, so okay, this.
Yeah, because it's
Not really good.
cold storage and transportation.
Yeah, I mean, just really the backbone of what we need.
Do you plan to do some like market research to see what kind of products they need in, where you're from?
A lot of meat and produce. The prices up in Alaska is very high. And then that includes like gallons of milk and go for, I think, like 12, 15 bucks.
If you're setting up a distribution chain from Alaska too, there are other relatively easy to handle materials you could bring back. Like dysprobium, for example, is a mineral that's used in wind turbine production that companies all around Iowa would love to get their hands on. There's probably a lot of opportunities once you do the hard work of setting up the route, right, and
Right.
getting the logistical piece out of the way. You could probably not just fish and seafood, but other things.
Yes, absolutely. We're open to shipping other things as well. If other businesses want to expand, we would be more than willing to ship up there. A lot of, I think it's called Rainbow Foods, is the all.
Yep.
Yes, that we probably ship to them because they're into a lot of organic stuff.
It's like a co-op health food.
Yes, yes.
And I know for them, it's really the transportation costs that is the biggest thing driving those prices
Mhm.
because of the lack of easy transportation coming in and out of the region.
Right.
So I think it's really finding what that market is, which is why it's good that it's not just you're really starting with the transportation
Yes.
sector, not just jumping into distributing.
Yes.
What are the meats that are most commonly eaten besides fish?
Well, yes, they
Chicken,
do,
beef, pork,
yeah.
Pork, beef,
and chicken,
That's-
yeah.
Yes.
What about dairy? Is there a demand for dairy?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, milk, cheese, all the dairy products, butter.
So we should talk.
Yes.
We should definitely talk. I have a lot of infrastructure money coming and equipment money coming right now under the most recent grants that we're under. It's a very short turnaround for submitting the grants, and you may not be there. I'm not even sure that I'm there yet, but I'm gonna submit for at least one vehicle, is what I'm thinking. It would be a refrigerated vehicle, not a first, for first. But there might be some adaptation that could be put in the back of the truck and have two sections. There'd be a lot of miles if we're going back and forth there, but
Right.
it might be something you could use for local distribution. It could be a shared use vehicle. And that's what I'm looking for. So
That'd be great, yes.
What are the hoops that you have to jump through to, one, be an aggregator of this amazing quality, high quality seafood, and then be able to, sell it to, sell it into the market? Do you know the hoops you might have to jump through, whether it's direct to consumer or, to other retailers, to restaurants?
I need to work with the FDA, so the FDA is, the one that works with a lot of like seafood, and the USDA is the one that works with the meat and produce. I still need to set up a meeting with them to discuss the requirements, but that's on my to-do list.
Do you have a timeline in mind, just even broad, would you like to be distributing by the end of the summer?
I'm hoping by the end of the summer.
Do your first orders or something like that?
That's what I'm hoping for, yes.
You were saying you're looking for like a building in town that can build out for like the forced cold storage, yeah?
Yes.
And you haven't located, you just started.
I talked to Troy a little bit about the space that he
I
had.
know, the Hirschberg and Green Building Supply
Oh,
just recently acquired their warehouse, which they're looking to build out for other local. Like this, they have a lot of extra space. So that could be another
Yeah.
person that we can connect you with, that they're trying to
That'd be
get,
great.
they have so much, I was just there yesterday. They have so much excess
And they're
space.
just down the road.
Right over by the Broadway building.
So did you look into direct to consumer?
No, not yet.
It seems like that would be a great way to start building the capital, if you could get it flown in and then have a
Yeah.
direct to consumer, you could start building really small, but a niche market,
Right. Yeah.
Much bigger margins too. And so like, that thing is like, you can do, there was a company years ago, might be worth looking to see why they disappeared. There's a company called Gold Belly, and what they were doing was allowing people to order direct to consumer, like Kansas City barbecue. Or, some like macaroons from some famous place in Manhattan.
You said Gold Belly?
It was called Gold Belly, yeah, and I'm not sure, they came out of Y Combinator for 500 servings. And then they were really cool, and kind of, I don't know what happened to them, they might have been purchased, or they may have been acquired, or they may have just, got too ahead of their capital, but like, yeah, the margin, because if you can package this fish for people that are looking for it as like a whole meal replacement or something, that then, you can sell it for a lot more, and that might cover your costs. So you might need to invest some of that money in marketing, but yeah, then.
I'm willing to pay $140 for 12 pieces of fish.
Yeah,
I mean,
subscription.
subscription from Wild
Yeah.
Alaska.
Yeah.
And it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth it. And so there's probably some fairly fat
Yeah,
wide margins.
yeah, Gold Belly tried subscription too. So that's a really interesting project. Yeah, subscriptions are really
I suspect if you showed up here with a list, a pricing list, and you pass it around, you'd have a handful of people that might sign up here. But you have to have the logistics of fulfillment.
Right.
And I think that's something I'll have to kind of work on, is who is gonna be producing it then, and what are they gonna charge you? And then
I
knowing that
understand.
is what you charge us.
Yeah,
with that.
I have the prices, but I don't have the, transportation costs figured out yet.
Yeah.
I do have the list.
And I had two other questions, just real quick. So one was, also, can you do something other than fish? If you're bringing seafood from the Pacific, can you bring like,
squirts and like other weird little things that people don't really eat. in the West.
Mussels, cockles.
Yeah, cockles and,
shellfish.
yeah,
all
the
that.
stuff you can, crunch and suck on the juice and spit it out.
Yeah.
Like, so, cause there's a niche market for that too, especially when doing subscriptions. I think there's a lot of people that are looking for it. And then, there's other things that are like tiny little shrimp. You were talking shrimp. These tiny little shrimp that are used for fermentation that are non-existent here, so kimchi sucks. And then, then the other thing is that, my friend, yeah, that's, my friend, he built a really successful business in LA, in food, and I'm not a food expert, but what he did, and I don't know if this is possible with fish, but what he did was he found this really interesting niche where people were throwing away ugly fruit. And then he went and he bought all the ugly fruit and he turned it into baby food, and he was really successful because, baby food is just, nobody cares what it looks like as long as it's in a clean bottle, right? So there could be stuff that you could take,
Making it fish.
yeah, ugly fish that you don't want to.
Ugly fish.
Yeah.
Canned tuna, type
What
idea.
Could be something, yeah.
Do you, is there a market for heirloom grain, freshly ground flour up, from the Midwest, up in Alaska?
I believe so, yeah.
Especially in Juneau.
You must be aware that the native Alaskans do dry salmon really
Yeah.
well. It's really tasty. If you were to get them to process it up there, then you wouldn't have to worry about refrigeration and freezing. And it's so good. It's just amazingly good. Whenever you cut your costs down, I would really suggest you have that to offer.
There's other, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some other stuff.
Go ahead and tell the
Okay.
background.
Well, I'm originally from Juneau, Alaska. I was born and raised. Yes,
You know about that.
yes, I do. They have all kinds of different, things that they do with the fish, the dried, smoked. They have Hudson Bay tea. They have all kinds of good things that I would like to bring up here eventually and, show a lot more of my culture and share with you guys. I was hoping that I would be able to get some to share with you guys, but the meeting came faster than I expected. Yeah.
We'll have you back.
Yeah.
Bring the order pads.
Right.
And you are tribal up there, correct?
Yeah,
So
I am.
he's also connected to tribes up there as well.
Yes, I am, Tlingit and Eskimo.
I was wondering if, mushrooms were popular.
Yes,
They are.
yes, my family and everybody's been excited about this meeting as well, and they're like, yes, please, just bring up some good stuff. Please, let's get this going. So I've had a lot of people nudging me to get this going, and I've had some excellent mentors here to help me think of all these things.
If you put a needs assessment of what you can bring from here,
Mhm.
we can give you prices and all day long and make it,
Okay.
really attractive to get stuff there to then get you back
Okay,
with all the good stuff for us.
And you all are, that's one of the models of the collective is to use their expertise that they've gained painfully over the years. Not painstakingly and painfully. So that they can help you with logistics.
yes.
And there's also, another, when you're talking about flying, there is a new program. So when pilots are wanting to reserve an airplane, like if they go to a private one, usually you have to be in their system. There is, someone from, I can't remember what area, but he has.
Yeah, you're turning here up.
Yeah, he has a program that he's getting that can be used nationally, so if a pilot comes in, that they can use a plane to move back and forth. But on that same order, if you have a plane coming in order to get it back, a lot of times pilots will find other passengers, other things. So you may want to talk to them if they're flying in saying, if I give you product to give back, would you give me a discount? Because what you're doing or what you're saying is, they're paying this way half of the airfare, you're paying that half of the airfare. So one of the things that especially if you're flying, how much can they deliver? How much can they deliver back? So like with airfare, It's usually, the reason it's so expensive with airfare is because you have to pay the both ways, and not only the pilot fee, but also the transportation, or the transportation fees with it, but also the pilot fees are huge. So a lot of places, what they do is, and especially private industry, private planes, they will fly one way, and they're like, okay, well, if you give me ahead of time, I will fly other people back, which in turn will cut your fare in half. So if you're looking at that, you might be able to ask them, saying, hey, if I give you product to come back, whether it's them selling or whatever, you might be able to cut that transportation, especially if you have that access to air and.
You know, as I think through, I'm thinking a little bit about Redtopia, you have family up in Juneau, putting together a grocery list, an order list for them as well, so that on this end, you are the receiver of the seafood, but then they package the dry goods here, and your family members then become the receiver and distributor of the Iowa products there.
I was gonna ask about that because it's a matter of setting up of, you know, all the logistics of that, and all the counting of that, and so that you have a regular distribution situations. And you all are, you know, gathering money from the end consumer so that you can pay wholesale. I mean, to us, or whatever.
Here, Dr., one more question here. One more question.
Because I didn't know with, you know, when you write grants, it's always what you put in it. And I didn't know if you can include this project as part of that grant, because I'm looking at your background, and when you say I'm supporting the native, Alaskan to sustainability, both even if there's a there and here, you start getting your points that you need for your grants, because a lot of times, anytime you can, especially in underserved market, or try
Greater impact, yeah.
Yep.
So the thing is with this grant is that I believe every state is available to ask for this big pot of money, okay? And Iowa has been awarded for this infrastructure and equipment, we've been awarded 5 million, 3 million of which is actually going to infrastructure and equipment. So the question is, and it's the type of equipment and infrastructure that you need, it could be for leasing a building, not buying a building. It's 100,000 to $1 million for infrastructure, could be one submit. You'd have to have a really, really well developed sub-grant in order to get that large of a work. That would be 1/3 of the whole pot for Iowa, okay? It's possible. And then the equipment is 10,000 up to 100,000. So that would be good for a vehicle. For, I think infrastructure, I'm not sure if coolers and that type of thing, and freezers are under infrastructure or equipment, but I suspect they're under equipment, but they could be infrastructure. So, but my point here mainly is that the project may have to just serve the residents and consumers within Iowa, because each state has their own, so I don't know, but I think we could probably write it in a way that it could serve, we could write the part that's gonna serve Iowa, in this community.
The food
or
storage
neighboring
part.
communities.
Probably.
And then the other part, maybe not, you know?
Right.
But if you're using a plane for your transport, that's not a problem. You're not gonna buy a plane, so, I think we
Not
might
yet, not
make
yet.
use
Maybe that could be part of the.
But we have to get on it like immediately. The infrastructure money is a one-time deal. We have 2 shots, 2 dates at submittal for the equipment part. But we should maybe begin talking right away, because I'm gonna submit for some things as well. And if you could do shared infrastructure for equipment, that would be really powerful.
Barbara, one quick question. I don't know what's happening in Alaska, but if that's a 50-state deal, maybe you could help them do a little research of what's happening in Alaska. Maybe they could set up an entity there that would.
If they have taken the money, then absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let me find out, and I'll give you the name of the grant, and we can look at it together. I just had my first really informative meeting yesterday, and the deadline is like the 8th or 9th of March. That's how
Gotta
big it
get to
is,
work.
really fun. It's like a very.
All right.
A lot of support that can help us with this, so.
A lot of good connections here today for you, and a lot of good answers. And this is a demonstration of exactly what Traction Thursday can do for the entrepreneurs. If you are interested in speaking come loaded for bear. I coach a lot of these people that do 1 million cups, which is essentially what we're doing here. 20 minutes of brief presentation and overview, but come loaded with questions to get help from the audience, because you gave these guys a ton of ideas. And I know they're gonna be busy meeting with several of you afterwards. This is your chance as an entrepreneur to have the community help you solve for some of your larger problems. And they may not be huge and insurmountable, some of them may be huge and insurmountable, but we can at least help guide you and point you in the right direction as a collective group of entrepreneurs. So kudos to you, and let's give these. All right, before we wrap up, we'll quickly go around and see if there are any community announcements that you want to share with anybody else in this room, or questions or things you need help with. So I'll just open it up. Bob.
Right, we are filled our speaker roster until the 14th of March. And got one in early May. So anyone who wants to come and present, thinking about Stephen and Jai and whoever else, Michael and will be presenting next week on a super exciting. Super, no pressure. So whoever wants to present, just let me know.
And we'll be opening up this opportunity in Mount Pleasant, probably in about a month or so, maybe sooner. And Sue will be our champion, and she'll let us know when that's gonna happen.
Yes, we're working hard.
Aside from Traction Thursday, any other community announcements? Anything going on in Tumwa, Indian Hills, any programs coming up?
Thing, coffee break this month is understanding your basic financials. And that's always the third Wednesday from 9 to 10. It's called virtual coffee break, 9 to 10. You can log in. We've also have like this where people hear what each other are doing, and so then they meet offline about that. We always do a topic. This month is there. Next month is Instagram. It's free. Whoever wants to come, just let us know. Yeah.
Great. Anything else? Yes, sir.
We're gonna be starting, IBS Collective, we're gonna be starting hopefully this August, throwing an annual IBC gala for at least the surrounding communities, because we poll clients for children's programming in the arts for the 30-mile radius currently, hoping to expand further. But we're gonna be looking for a lot of community support. So, yeah. get
All those
those-
volunteers from Ragbri will be looking for things to do in August.
Yeah, so
You'll have that.
I'll talk to them.
All right, well, fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for showing up, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you, Alex.